So I started investing with land. In my first deal just 2 years ago, I bought a vacant land for $2,000, and then I sold it for $12,500 just 3 weeks later. And when I realized that this process could be repeated, I did it about 30 times my first year in real estate. And this was out of my one-bedroom apartment. I didn't have an office or anything. I'd quit my job as a case manager and just continued to repeat the process over and over. I started purchasing homes with the cash that I was getting, and I was able to complete some flip projects. And then one of the most recent ones, we were able to make six figures in just 4 months when we were flipping it. So really excited about that. And I wanted to have a passion to share the blessings that I've been having the past couple of years. So that gave me the ammunition to open up the real estate brokerage called Lex Land Realty in Tampa Bay.
You are listening to the Real Estate Proverbs Podcast with host Kevin Jefferson. This is the #1 podcast for African American real estate professionals who are doing extraordinary things. It's time to tune in. And now, your host, the People's Lender, Kevin Jefferson.
Welcome to the Real Estate Proverbs Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Jefferson, and today we have a special guest by the name of Miss Alexis Monroe. How are you this morning?
Hi, I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
That's awesome. I'm excited about this one. I'm looking forward to this interview for sure. Alexis, tell us a little bit about who you are for those who don't know.
Yes, so my name is Alexis Monroe. I am a real estate investor, and I was a realtor for 2 years and recently just opened one of the most successful real estate brokerages in Tampa Bay, Florida. So I'm really excited to talk about a little bit about what we do, why we're successful, and what's gotten me here today.
Awesome. Did you sell Tom Brady his house?
No, I didn't, but I'm really happy to have him.
Okay, I'm sure any team is happy to have him.
Right.
Amazing quarterback.
Yeah.
So what got you into real estate?
So I started investing with land. In my first deal just 2 years ago, I bought a vacant land for $2,000, and then I sold it for $12,500 just 3 weeks later. And when I realized that this process could be repeated, I did it about 30 times my first year in real estate. And this was out of my one-bedroom apartment. I didn't have an office or anything. I'd quit my job as a case manager and just continued to repeat the process over and over. I started purchasing homes with the cash that I was getting, and I was able to complete some flip projects. And then one of the most recent ones, we were able to make six figures in just 4 months when we were flipping it. So really excited about that. And I wanted to have a passion to share the blessings that I've been having the past couple of years. So that gave me the ammunition to open up the real estate brokerage called Lex Land Realty in Tampa Bay.
Wow. So let's talk about the $2,000 for the land.
Sure.
What did you do to be able to sell it for 6 times what you paid for?
So I actually was really into tax deed sales. I think I came across it actually when I was studying for my real estate license. I came across the concept for the first time where when people wouldn't pay taxes on their property, you were able to acquire the entire property just for the back taxes. So that was exciting to me because I was like, wow, you can own property for just taxes. Because I didn't come from a lot of money. I didn't have a lot. So I saved up and I started going to networking meetup groups, and I started studying. I was watching the tax auctions, seeing how other people how other people were bidding and what they were doing with their properties after they bought it. So I did that for about a year, and then I actually I saved up $2,000 and went ahead and did my first one and put it on the market, and then was able to get it ready to sell very quickly. So yeah, tax deeds are a great way. They are a great way to get started, but it just takes a lot of education as far as knowing how to run your own title search, making sure there's no liens, making sure it's actually a property that people are going to want to buy from you, because ultimately the previous owner didn't want the property. That's why they didn't pay taxes a lot of times. So you got to find out, why didn't they want it? And yeah, so from there, I did a lot of the similar processes.
So the other 30 that you did, were they all tax liens?
Tax deeds? Yeah.
Yeah, tax deeds.
They were tax deeds. Well, they were a combination of tax deeds. Most of them were tax deeds. And then I also got into wholesaling. So wholesaling is basically where you get a property under contract, and then you find a buyer for that property before you come up with at the same time that you buy the property. So you and the buyer are closing essentially at the same time.
Right.
And which makes it so that you don't have to have any money down. And so I did some of those as well in a combination with the tax deeds. And then I moved on to more expensive purchases. And then now I'm sharing the success with my real estate team through our online training.
Wow. So in terms of even getting to the tax deed part, right? Like you're living in your 1-bedroom apartment, and how did you get into the tax deed? Like what intrigued you to do it?
So I was working as a case manager at the time, and I always knew that I wanted more out of life. I didn't really want to work for anybody. I always knew that I wanted to be by myself. And, when there were issues at the job, I always felt like I had a better solution to solve them, but because I wasn't in a position like upper management, they just kind of ignored me, and that bothered me every day. And so I was just looking for a path out, a path where I could be free and make my own money without having a boss. And so I always had an interest in real estate. So even before I was a case manager, I worked at a liquor store, and it was a really expensive drink. It was like a $3,000 bottle. And I was just a teller at the time. And when the bottle would sell, it only sold 3 times, and I was there 2 years. And I would ask everybody who was buying the bottle, like, what do you do? And they all did real estate.
Wow.
So I thought it was like, it was kind of, that was my initial, and that's how I was initially intrigued. Like, wow, you could just pay $3,000 on a really expensive bottle. I'm trying to be like that one day. So that's where it initially started. And then, just in general, went on to case management and started, just wanting more and wanting to be an entrepreneur. And so I thought that if I could get a property discounted, then I could sell it and make instant money. And that's exactly what happened. So now I have a really passion to continue helping others that are also in similar situations where they don't like their job, so they can live their life of abundance and achieve all their dreams.
So how long was the process from you acquiring a tax deed and then selling it? So
for my philosophy, the way I was selling them, I always believe in leaving a lot of meat on the bone for our buyers. So my tax deeds, the first one took 3 weeks. But the ones that I were buying after that, it took about a week or two. It was a fairly quick flip because there was so much meat on the bones. And it's funny, I go back and look at them now, that lot that I had for, $12,000, they sold it for 25. You know what I'm saying? So I sit here and talk about all the success from 2 to 12, but I could have done 2 to 20, so I just left a lot of meat, and that's how I was able to work numbers and was able to build a portfolio from that. But I had given away a lot of money at the same time. So instead of, I wasn't focusing on the money. I was just focused on, okay, wow, well, $10,000 in 3 weeks is pretty good money, as opposed to, okay, this is worth 20,000. Should I sell it for, I'm leaving a lot of me. I'm just thinking about what works for
you,
my pockets. Yeah.
Right.
And at that time, 10,000 was the most I've ever made in anywhere at one time.
Did you go buy a bottle?
I didn't buy a bottle, but I was so my first couple of transactions, and I think people will start experiencing this too. I know some people on my team have already. When you first start making money like that, it is very easy to just spend it. So I do like to celebrate, and so I would go out and I would buy the entire bar a drink because I was excited. So yeah, so the 10,000 went fairly quickly in the first deal.
You live and you learn, right?
To your mom. Yeah.
So in terms of, you're in Florida. This was all in Florida, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Tampa, Florida.
Tampa. So explain to me the tax deed. Can you explain the process of obtaining a tax deed?
So a little bit about the tax deed process. There you can purchase tax deeds either online or in person, depending on the county, how they have it set up. I personally did in person. I went online, and when there's an account that you'll create, a username and login, and it's free. So you'll be able to go log in and see all the properties that are upcoming that the owners didn't pay or behind on their taxes severely. And then on the day of the auction, you'll have the opportunity to bid. And so it's very entertaining because you're going against other people, and basically the property value just goes all the way up until the time runs out. And if you have the highest bid at that time, then you win the property. One of the biggest risks and one of the biggest issues with tax deed buying, which is recommended that you do, use a mentor or someone that's bought it before, is because there are you're buying a property that does not have a title search. There is nobody to warrant the property that it's free and clear. And so what happens is a lot of those lands and homes, they have liens. And so I was able to find a way to negotiate a lot of those liens and get them released. Or sometimes I would tell the buyers of the liens that I found myself and, gave it to them with the lien so they can add it. But there's sometimes there can be issues where the lien amount is worth more than market value. Also, there's title companies that just don't want it. So you have a buyer lined up, and then the buyer's like, well, I want to clear title. And there's title companies that are like, we don't want to deal with tax deeds because they're risky purchases. Even though you own the property, you bought the property, the previous owner still has to sign up.
So Alexis, listen, what I'm intrigued at is once you did it the first time and sold it for $2,000 and made 12, you said you went through, you blew the 10 grand. That's cool. We live and we learn, right? How were you able to obtain the rest of the properties? Meaning, did you save some of that 12 grand and go right back into it? And if so, if not, did you finance any? Like, tell us how you were able to get so many deals.
Yeah. No, before I blew it, because like I said, I like to celebrate and I like to give. I was giving it to my family. I was like, hey guys, I just found, really cool niche. And I was giving my mom money and my dad money and my sisters. And, I wanted everybody to eat. But before I did all of that, I picked out, a couple lots to buy before I did all that every time. So because I liked spending money. And so I would, instead of spending it on just anything, I would spend it on buying land because it was exciting. And so I'd get to go to the lot. I mean, after I buy, I really wouldn't see them before I buy it. And then I'd go to the lot and, hang out there and maybe take some pictures. I never really I didn't post a lot. Like I said, I was just doing a lot of grinding. And just recently, I've been trying to share the story as I grow the real estate brokerage. But, I would just go play on the land and just be excited about it. So I always invested first, and eventually I saved to buy a home. We've also been recently tapping into raising money and for people that don't want to learn all the ins and outs and spend the hours on educating and take the risk for themselves. Recently, I've been raising private money from individuals that would like a return. So that's for some of the flip projects that I've done. I've done that as well because, it is about, giving back. And I really have a passion to, make sure that, everybody has the opportunity to eat. If one person's eating, you share. And that's just how I was raised and what I believe in.
Oh, that's awesome. So when you're doing the 30 deals, did you already have your brokerage or did that start afterwards?
No. So I just opened the brokerage in April.
Okay.
That was after all of the successes from the real estate, land and home flipping. I was actually with another brokerage and just as a basic realtor. So while I was selling these land deals, I was also representing builders. So I was able to get in contact with a lot of builders in the area. And I formed 2 relationships with some builders in Tampa that at the time, they were buying my lots. They built 2 homes and then now they have built 27 homes, 220 new construction homes. So I started working with private builders, and that's what grew my listings. So then I had homes for sale, bunch of new construction homes in Tampa. And that was when a lot of, and I forgot, sometimes I forget to mention that a lot of what I learned from also was in my contracts class in law school and my property class. I was in the middle of my first year in law school when I was also doing these lands. So I was applying those concepts from the classroom. At the time, I was top 10% in my class. And I was just loving, really nerdy when it comes to real estate and contracts and things like that. So I was just taking it and really applying it into the real world. And honestly, like law school, inspired a lot of those as well. A lot of that.
Did you finish law school?
I'm in my 3rd year right now.
Wow.
So I'm taking 2 classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then we will expand into Lexland Law Firm next year once I pass the bar.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. So you're going to maintain your brokerage and then you're going to have the law firm as well? Yes.
Yeah. We'll expand also into a law firm. We'll have, a separate, it'll be a separate office with other attorneys to represent our real estate clients as well as personal injury.
Wow. So you mentioned caseworker. What were you doing at the time as a caseworker?
Yeah, so when I was a caseworker, I worked for a company called Devereaux. It was, I was helping parents that were abusing their children due to substance abuse or physical abuse. They were physically abusing, substance abuse, or just neglecting their kids. And I was providing them case plans to get their children back. I was providing them case plans so that they could eventually be reunified with their parents. So again, there was a lot of issues that I didn't like on how, how the state was running our caseloads. We had just way too many and, things like that. And when I would go in the courtroom to advocate on behalf of our parents. I really wasn't heard the way that I wanted, the way that I felt that I should have been, primarily because, I wasn't that higher up in leadership. So that really bothered me, and even sparked law school. Being able to truly advocate and have a seat at important table when important decisions are made. I wanted to be there and have a strong voice because we were dealing with children's lives. And yes, so that's where that came from.
Wow. You answered my question. I was like, that sounded like that's what made her go to law school.
That's what initially, like, just being able to be an advocate and stand up for what is right in a format that is easily received by the public. And attorneys have that. They have that. People respect attorneys, and they have a wealth of information. Law school is no joke. Law school is absolutely no joke. It's a bunch of reading. The exams, professors aren't easy on you. But so as a result, you're able to really grow and learn. And that's what I like doing, growing and learning.
Got you. So at what point did you get into the flipping?
Yeah, after I had done a few, I had done maybe 20 or something, because I was doing the land at the same time as flipping. So then I bought one from an HOA foreclosure. I had bought that one for $7,000, and it was a home, and it really didn't need much work. It was like almost turnkey, and it was worth $230,000. That's what I ended up selling it for, but it had a mortgage on there. So I think the mortgage was like maybe $200,000. So before I could sell it, I had to, I didn't have to pay off the mortgage. I could pay off the mortgage at the time the buyer was buying the $230,000. Gotcha. So it was a creative way to get in. I historically didn't have good credit. I had, because I had a bachelor's degree from Ohio State, that I had an incredible amount of student loans, and I wasn't your typical home buyer. So I wasn't going to be able to get approved for a mortgage. When I was doing the calculations on how I was going to be able to get approved for a mortgage out of law school, because of the loans that I was acquiring, I was going to have a starting salary of $170,000 a year just to own a $200,000 house.
Wow.
And it just really irked me that it wasn't fair. So when I had bought that house, I was really happy, because I was like, I own a home. And at that time, I had maybe a 5 something. And I didn't, you know what I'm saying? And I had a little bit of capital from the land deals, but I didn't come from a lot of capital. So it was just really cool that I was like, yeah, I own this. And it was a creative way to purchase a property. It was only 7 stacks, and it was mine. Wow. Subject to a mortgage. So and then from there I bought some flat out tax deed homes where I did research. They had one that I bought had actually, it was worth worth $180,000. Bought it for $35,000, and this didn't have any at tax sales. They don't have no mortgage, but before I bought it, I was aware it actually ended up having $250,000 worth of liens. So if it has $250,000 worth of liens and it's only worth $180,000, then you buy the property, you're buying debt, right? And so that's why those are some of the risks that come with tax deeds. Those are definitely some of the risks. You don't want to end up owing. So I went ahead and bought it because I was confident. I had done some research on how I can get rid of these liens, how they exist. So I did some negotiating, and ultimately I was able to, I was planning to pay, instead of 280 in liens, I was thinking I'd only pay about 20,000 in liens. But ended up, I got a really good connection in with the city of Winter Haven. And they ended up waiving the liens for me 100%. So we paid nothing. The home, it was a duplex, and it was actually like, it was a really, really, really bad condition. Like they were trying to demolish it. It used to be a trap house. Like people were like shooting out of it, and so many people had died, and it was on the news several times. Like it was a big landmark for their city. That house, it was just, disturbing. And so I came in with the team and was able to rehab it and restore it to its best condition. Of course, they gave us a little hard time at first. Because the city contractor was saying, you can't rehab it. You need to tear this down. Like this is done. Like we're trying to make it a vacant lot. And I'm like, no. We just paid $35,000. You cannot tear this down. So yeah, I rehabbed it for $60,000. And at the time I bought it, it was worth $180,000. Long story short, after negotiating, arguing with the appraiser, we ended up closing on it for $225,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's something else I'm very proud of. Thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so that's some of the stuff that people don't, when you're looking to fix and flip and you get into like maybe a course or somebody teaching you, those are things that you don't hear and you don't know when it's going to happen, dealing with the city, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Dealing with the city, dealing with code enforcers, dealing with, if it's a vacant house, dealing with squatters, neighbors, even something as minute as, like, for instance, the project I'm working on now, my contractor calls me and says, hey, Kevin, somebody just dumped a whole deck in the yard by the dumpster. You don't account for that. Like, right. Who does that? So she called me and I was like, I'll see what I can find. It's a small town. I'm from there. I know the streets, I know the streets and neighborhoods. I know the houses. Like, I don't have to see it. I know what houses have what. Somebody in that area did, or was working in that area did it. And so she called me like 2 days later and said, hey, they dropped some more stuff off. So then she called the police. They called me, filed a report, and I asked him, I said, so, what you gonna do? And he was like, well, we just kind of keep an eye out on seeing if anybody, like, really nothing, right? Like, that's what I got from the conversation, nothing. So, funny story. Friend of mine has a house down the street, and he posted on Facebook his house having the wheelchair ramp, which was made out of wood, removed. So I called him and I said, hey, I know he didn't do it. I said, hey, man, listen, I said, the house down the street, somebody dumped a whole bunch of wood that like it came from a deck or a wheelchair ramp. I said, what your guy do with it? He said, I don't know. He said, I paid him for the dump fee. So he called him, and the guy admitted that he dumped it there. He said he thought it was a vacant house. And he was like, but I paid you for the dump fee. And then in my mind, and I'm like, what vacant house has a dumpster in front of it? Like,
he knew that. Yeah,
he knew it. He was doing. But he came back and got the stuff. So, it worked out. But those are just things you just don't know. Because the crazy part is, Alexis, the next step would have been, if I had let it sit, the city would have gave me a citation. And if I didn't clean it up in a certain amount of days, they would have cleaned it up. And I think they charged like $200 an hour. So, like, those things you can't account for. Like, you don't
Right.
know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You don't know,
Yep.
whatever,
That's the thing with flip projects. Yeah, you never know. And unfortunately, there are a lot of things that happen outside of your control. And flips is one of the projects. That's one of the things that happen. So it's good to make sure you always get something with a lot of room, a lot of space, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to use that space.
Yeah, I like mine is over budget.
Mm-hmm. That's normal.
Yep, but the good part is I purchased it right.
Yeah,
and
right.
with the market increasing,
this works out. It works out. And you're in Georgia?
I'm in Georgia. My project's in Delaware.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's in Delaware.
Nice.
I'm originally from there. It's a street behind where I grew up at, and I own a property there. So I purchased it. And like I said, it's small. I know, you tell me the color of the house, I know whose house it is or was. Like, it's just at the back of my hand.
That's a great it's a great way to invest in areas that you know that well. That's awesome.
Yep. So that's that, like, just those things you just never know. So it sounds like your first flip was a success, right?
Yeah.
Your first your first flip was a success.
That was the one for the one that I got for $7,000. Now I didn't make as much as I wanted to, as I was thinking I was going to make at first, because I had to argue with the bank. Originally, they owed only it was like 180, and then they came at the last minute saying they want 200. That was the balance because of interest and rate fees. So it wasn't as big as a profit I want. You add closing costs. I did throw this on the market, so I had to pay another realtor commission fee. And so after that, I think it might have been like 10,000 profit, but I only spent 7,000, and it wasn't too much in rehab. I just I just did a deep cleaning. We did replace the floor, but it was simple. It was less than 3 days, and then we put it on the market. And thank the HOA for the opportunity. And yeah.
That's amazing. Like, those are great stories. So I want to get into your brain, right?
Okay.
What allowed for you to come up with that creative way? Because you just don't say, "Oh, I'm gonna do a subject too."
Yeah, that's a good question. I just really believe that if there's a will, there's a way. Like, I just knew that it had to be done. Like, me as a person from just a traditional middle class family, and not a great credit score, like the fact that I had to make $170,000 salary just to own a regular house. At $170,000 salary, you could own probably maybe $800,000 house realistically. And so it just wasn't fair, and that's what motivates me. I think that's what drives me, is when things happen in the world that just aren't fair. And that's where the creativity comes from. That's what gets my brain ticking, and how to solve this problem. So when something happens that just isn't right, I'm just thinking of all solutions to try to overcome it. And I was like, I want to own a house, and I don't have a good credit score, and I don't want to. You don't have a bunch of capital, so 7,000. Let's do it, and pay the mortgage later. I paid the mortgage once I found a buyer at the closing date.
Right.
But also, yeah, about that, it was a very, very risky deal. Because I wasn't paying the mortgage, they were already, the HOA foreclosed, but then the mortgage also has the opportunity to foreclose, right? So I sold it like the day before it was going to go to mortgage foreclosure. If it went to mortgage foreclosure, I would have lost everything, all the investment. So it was extremely risky. Because when you buy, you know, that's why, again, you want to know what you're doing when you're bidding at those auctions. Because I knew that, I think I had 2 months, maybe it was a month or two to sell it. And so I had to, you know, first buyer backed out because, you know, inspection or financing didn't go through or whatever the reasons buyers back out. The first buyer didn't back out. The first buyer backed out. And then, you know, I had a second buyer. This was my first home. So I didn't realize, you know, that 2 months is very, very, very short time for any amount of flip, because it takes 30 days for the mortgage, for the loan to get approved. Then, you know, the lenders push back, and the bank wasn't trying to hear. They had already paid their attorney fees and they were ready to just sell it. And they had every right to. Sell it because they'd already initiated foreclosure before I bought it. I was aware that it was going into foreclosure. I just thought 2 months was enough time. I said, oh, this is going to be, I was like, oh, this is going to be an easy flip, you know, quick 30 stacks or whatever I thought I was going to make, and just close out in 2 weeks. And that's not what happened.
Not what happens at all, huh?
No. But I take the lessons and I learn, and I can purchase more mature, and I can, you know, share with other people from my mistakes, and so they can also make money and become real estate investors and quit their jobs.
So which one do you like better? The fixing and flipping or the selling the land?
Probably land, I'd say. I just have a special heart for land. Actually, I named the brokerage after land. Lex Land Realty, because that's just, any type of real estate starts with land, right? You have homes, you have commercial buildings, you have apartment complexes. There's, you know, anything in real estate starts with land. It's literally at the head of any real estate. And it's also the most simplest form of real estate. Simple form. You know, you don't have to calculate rehab costs. You don't have to, it's just grass. Like, it's just dirt. And so it's a great way to get started in real estate because it's not as complicated. And the number, a lot of times they're cheaper, so the numbers aren't as intimidating. You start working a $200,000 deal, it's kind of scary when you're just not knowing what you're doing. But you take those 2 zeros off, and now you're only working with 2,000. Okay, well, if I screw this up, it's not as scary. So land, I definitely have a special place in my heart for land. I like houses because it's a little bit more like, you know, instead of $10,000, you know, you're making $100,000 on flip on some of them. And it's just a little bit more pay, but it's also a little bit more headache. So yeah.
Risk versus reward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So you touched on you had a online course. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so that's actually for realtors only. That's just for the brokerage. We do a lot of online training.
Okay.
I have not opened it up to non-realtors yet at this time because I think that it's important. Realtors are the leaders of the real estate market, and I always like to see realtors in doing these things, like, you know, actually going and studying the state laws and passing the test, and then from there becoming a wholesaler, flipping homes. But yes, once you join the brokerage, you'll have access to online our online videos, just traditional realtor, how to, you know, draft an offer, how to lead generate, how to find a buyer, how to establish relationships with builders and repeat clients, so that you're automating your realtor business. And then we also have the investor side, and how we're able to take $2,000 and invest it, and how we're able to, you know, find creative lenders for our clients, and you know, how we can get around them not having a good credit score, and those type of creative solutions to get the deal closed. So yeah, that's the online. It's with the brokerage, Lex Land Realty.
How many agents do you currently have?
So right now, we opened in April. I have 6 agents on the team, and we are growing very rapidly. And yeah, we do prefer a little experience just because we come in at such an aggressive rate as far as really training your mind to think like an investor. So we want you to think like an investor so that when you're representing your clients, you come with some true value to their deal. And it's not just, I no longer believe in just the pretty face realtor, the one that just looks really good and goes on social media. They're not adding much value anymore as realtor.com and Zillow.com become more popular and active. That traditional realtor is essentially going, is going to go out of business, I think. So having a realtor that actually knows how to analyze a property, knows what to do in the event the appraiser doesn't appraise your property high enough. How, not just referring a lender, but referring the best lender for your client, someone who specializes in low credit score, someone who specializes in not no money down, someone who specializes in, there's different kind of lenders for different people, and you're actually finding the money for your client. And so that's what we teach with our brokers, is how we're getting, how we're able to really, really provide that value, where it's almost like without us, that deal would not have been able to been done. It would not have been able to been done. So we don't just enhance it, we create it. And that's what we stand for.
Do you have a mentor?
So I have a group of friends that I look up to.
Okay.
They have, we all help each other. Their name is actually Flip Savage. So they have a group, and we meet up once a month in Tampa, and we'll go and just talk about our deals together. And it's really cool. It's a great support network because it gets hard. It does. The rewards are great, and we sit here and talk about the rewards, but there's also just as many downfalls. And until you close, you don't know how much you're going to make. You don't know a lot. And so it's just important to have a support network. But they are, they're actually all of my best friends now.
That's awesome. It's good to have a support team. Good to have a support team.
Yes.
So in terms of the vision for Lexland Realty, how many agents are you looking to get to?
So I see Lexland, like I said, I truly believe that we are the fastest growing real estate brokerage and one of the most successful, just because we are training our agents to make sure that they're providing the utmost value to the clients. And we believe in sharing all of our blessings. So all of our agents are trained to share, not just with the clients, but with other realtors and other agents. And as a result, that is abundant. I mean, that's how you live a life of abundance, and having an abundance of realtors that are sharing and giving back to the community in a way that truly makes a difference. So I do see Lexland growing very, 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 very big, and not just Tampa, but all throughout Florida and eventually the United States. So we are going to take this really far because, we're sharing all of our blessings that come from God. That's what I believe. And that's what he put in my heart. And I know we can be there, and we just got to keep being creative and investing in realtors. And that's my main thing, is to invest in other people so they can make the world a better place.
Awesome. So Alexis, I appreciate the opportunity to interview you.
Thank you.
I think you have an amazing story. And I definitely wanted to hear how you were able to do what you did last year or currently doing. For anyone who wants to reach out to you, join Lexland Real Estate, or just talk to you about real estate in general, how can they reach you on social media?
Absolutely. My Facebook is Alexis Monroe. We have a website. You can go to the website at www.lexlandrealty.com. And on Instagram, it's Alexis Monroe _Lexland. Awesome. So those are the social media accounts.
Awesome. Thank you for listening to Real Estate Proverbs Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Jefferson. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you for watching the Real Estate Proverbs Podcast with Kevin Jefferson. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can be notified when the latest video drops.